The secret discovery: the spaceport was always crowded, filled with the sound of alien voices, the heavy steps of workers, and the endless announcements echoing across metal walls. Captain Ryan walked through the busy corridors, his boots clanging. On the steel floor, he had been to many worlds, but this city always made him uneasy. There was something different about it, something hidden under the bright lights and shiny ships. As Ryan waited in line for his ID check, he noticed a group of traders arguing with the guards. Among them stood a small figure, quiet and almost invisible. She wore a faded cloak that hid her face, and her hands were tucked tightly inside the long sleeves. But it was her eyes that caught Ryan's attention. Large, bright, and filled with sadness. They glanced up for a moment before looking down again. The traders were loud, but the girl stayed silent, flinching whenever her master's voice grew harsh. Ryan's eyes narrowed as he watched. He had seen many aliens on this station, but something about her felt wrong. Maybe it was the way she walked, limping, moving stiffly, as if in pain. Maybe it was the way she stayed just far enough behind her master, never daring to look him in the eyes. Later, while Ryan was eating in a small diner, he saw them again through the window. The girl stood outside in the cold night, shivering. Her master laughed inside with the other traders, tossing scraps to her as if she was an animal. She quickly bent down and picked up the food, stuffing it into her mouth, then hiding behind a crate. Ryan's heart pounded with anger. He knew slavery was illegal here, at least officially. But every spacer heard stories of hidden auctions, of desperate refugees being sold and bought. He had always told himself he couldn't get involved. But tonight, something inside him changed. As darkness fell, Ryan decided to follow the girl and her master. He moved quietly, using the shadows, slipping between cargo crates and under broken lights. The traders were heading for the cheap side of the city, where the real laws were written in fear and silence. The girl was pulled along by a chain, hidden under her cloak. Her steps grew slower, her body trembling from cold and exhaustion. Ryan's fists clenched. No one around them seemed to care. People just looked away, pretending not to see. Suddenly, Ryan heard a soft, muffled cry. The master had stopped in a dark alley, pulling the girl to the ground and yelling at her. Ryan watched as she tried to protect herself, curling into a ball. He wanted to shout, to run in and help, but he forced himself to wait. He needed to understand more before making a move. If he acted too soon, both of them could be caught or worse. The master dragged the girl inside a small, dirty building. The door slammed shut. Ryan waited in the shadows, his heart racing. After a few minutes, he heard soft sobs from behind the thin wall. He saw a small window and climbed up to look inside. The girl sat on the floor, hugging her knees, rocking back and forth. Her face was pale, with strange blue markings that glowed faintly in the dark. Ryan realized she was much younger than he thought, maybe just a child. The master paced the room, checking a bag of credits, then left her alone and went into another room. Ryan watched her for a long time, wondering what he could do. If he called the station guards, the master would just bribe them. If he tried to take her by force, she might get hurt or he might fail. Suddenly, the girl looked up at the window. Her eyes met Ryan's. For a moment, she looked frightened. But then something else appeared, a tiny spark of hope. She didn't call out. She didn't move. She just looked at him, silently pleading. Ryan pressed his hand against the glass, as if to promise her something. He whispered softly, "I'll help you," though he wasn't sure she could hear. As footsteps returned, Ryan dropped back into the shadows. The master came back, pulling the girl to her feet and dragged her further inside. Ryan's mind raced with questions. Who was she? How did she end up here? Why was no one helping her? He knew one thing for certain. Tonight, he could not walk. Away, the pain in the girl's eyes had burned itself into his memory. Whatever the cost, he had to try. As he slipped away, blending into the night, Ryan made a silent promise to himself. He would return. He would find a way. The secret suffering he had discovered could no longer stay hidden. Not while he was here. The silent plea night on the spaceport city was never truly dark. Neon signs flickered against the clouds, painting long blue and green shadows over wet alleyways. The air tasted like rain and old oil. But inside the broken house where Lyra stayed, it felt like a prison. Cold and endless. Lyra sat curled on the hard floor, her knees drawn to her chest. Her arms ached from the hidden shackles, her wrists rubbed raw. She shivered, but not only from the cold. Every noise in the building made her flinch. Every heavy footstep made her heart race. She could not remember the last time she had slept. Without fear, her master Grant checked the locks again, his eyes sharp and suspicious. He kicked over a half-eaten food pack toward Lyra. "Eat. Tomorrow is a long day," he barked. Lyra grabbed the food quickly and retreated to the corner, never meeting his eyes. That night, Grant fell asleep in his chair, snoring with a bottle still in his hand. Lyra stared at the window where she had seen the stranger, the human with the kind eyes. The memory of his promise echoed in her mind. "I'll help you." No one had ever said such words to her before. She pressed her face to the cold glass and watched the shadows. Was the human still out there? Or had he left, like everyone else who once promised help? Lyra closed her eyes and tried not to hope. Hoping always made the pain worse. Far below, Ryan hid behind a trash unit, listening to the city. He checked his wrist communicator again, replaying the few seconds when Lyra had looked at him. Her eyes haunted him. He thought about leaving, about finding another port, another ship, a safer story. But he knew he wouldn't. He was trapped, not by chains, but by conscience. He waited until just before dawn, when Grant's snores echoed loudest. He slipped around the back, where the old wall was weak. With a quiet grunt, he pried a piece of metal loose and created a tiny opening. Barely big enough for a hand. He whispered, "Lyra." There was a long silence. Then a small shadow appeared. Lyra's face peered through the hole, eyes wide, mouth open, in shock. "Don't be afraid," Ryan whispered, keeping his voice gentle. "I want to help you. My name is Ryan. Can you understand me?" Lyra nodded, though her hands shook. Her voice was tiny and broken. "If Master finds out, he'll hurt me more. Please, you go." Ryan clenched his jaw, fighting the urge to break down the door and take her away right then. "I can't let him keep hurting you." "I can bring you food, or water," or Lyra interrupted, shaking her head. "No, he'll know. He always knows. And if I run, they catch me. Then, worse." Her voice faded, haunted. Ryan reached through the opening and placed a small wrapped snack in her hand, along with a thin thermal blanket from his own bag. "Hide these. Use them when you need. Tomorrow, I'll come back. We'll find a way." Lyra stared at the blanket as if it was made of gold. Tears filled her eyes. She tried to speak, but only a whisper came out. "Why? Why help me?" Ryan smiled, though it was sad. "Because you matter. No one should live like this. Not you, not anyone." For a moment, hope flickered in Lyra's heart, warmer than any. Blanket. She wiped her tears and nodded, pressing the precious items under the floorboard. The next day, Lyra tried to move slowly, not drawing attention. Grant grew more suspicious, barking orders and watching her every step. But Lyra held tight to the memory of the kind human. At night, she whispered to herself, "He'll come back," he promised. In the market, while Grant bargained loudly with other traders, Lyra overheard two women talking. "Another alien girl vanished last night," one said. "The slavers are getting bolder," the other replied, shaking her head. "No one is safe, not even the children." Lyra's stomach twisted in fear. She realized she was not the only one. There were others like her, lost, scared, hoping for help. Ryan spent the day asking quiet questions. He visited a mechanic he trusted, a woman named Tessa. "Tessa," he whispered, "do you know anything about this slave trade here?" Tessa's face darkened. "Everyone knows, but no one talks. The guards are paid to look away. If you push too hard, you disappear." Ryan nodded grimly. "I have to help someone. A girl named Lyra. She's just a child." Tessa placed a hand on his shoulder. "Be careful, Ryan. The slavers are always watching. But you're not alone." She slid him a small cum chip. "You need help? Call this number." That night, Ryan returned to the broken house. This time, Lyra was waiting at the window. She pressed her hand to the glass, and he pressed his hand back, both silent, both afraid and hopeful. They did not need words. In that moment, a silent plea passed between them, a promise of courage and trust. Fragile as light. Tomorrow, Ryan knew he would try to free her. But freedom was never simple. In the city of shadows, every hope came with danger. The humans' planned morning light crept across the city, painting the rooftops with dull gold. The spaceport's heart beat with new activity: ships docking, cargo moving, traders shouting about rare goods. But in a quiet corner, Ryan stood waiting, scanning every face that passed. He wore plain clothes now, hiding his captain's badge and tucking his dark hair under a worker's cap. Every so often, his eyes darted to a narrow alley where shadows moved. He knew the slaver's eyes could be anywhere. Today, he couldn't afford a mistake. Ryan checked his pocket for the cum chip Tessa had given him. He pressed the call button and waited. A voice answered, low and careful. "You need help, friend." "I do," Ryan whispered. "There's a child. Alien kept by a man named Grant. I want to get her out safely. But I can't do it alone." The voice replied, "Meet us at Dock 7. 1 hour." Ryan ended the call, his heart racing. He had taken the first step, and there was no going back. Inside the cold building, Lyra listened to Grant argue on his own communicator. His back turned. He was angry about something, shouting about lost credits and threats from his boss. Lyra's stomach twisted. She wished she could be invisible, but she was not as weak as she seemed. With quiet hands, she pulled the blanket Ryan had given her from under the floorboard. For the first time, she felt a little bit brave. She pressed her face into the soft fabric and whispered, "Thank you, Ryan." The sound of footsteps outside made her jump. The door creaked open, and Grant grabbed her by the arm. "Come, you little freak," he hissed. "We have a delivery to make." Lyra followed, her heart pounding with fear and hope. Maybe today was the day. Maybe Ryan had a plan. Ryan hurried through the city, moving fast but trying not to draw attention. When he reached Dock 7, he found 3 people waiting. 2 were human, a man and a woman with hard eyes and workers' hands. The third was an alien, tall and thin, with scales that shimmered silver blue in the dim light. The woman stepped forward. "I'm Mara. This is Kale, and this is Generous. We help those who want to be free." Ryan nodded. "Thank you." "The girl's name is Lyra. She's young, just a child." Generous spoke softly, his voice like music. "We know where Grant takes his slaves. There are safe tunnels under the docks. But we need a distraction." Ryan glanced at Kale. "What kind of distraction?" Kale grinned. "Something loud. something messy. Don't worry, we'll handle it. You get Lyra and bring her to the east tunnel. That's your way out. Ryan felt hope bloom inside him. For the first time, it didn't feel impossible. Grant pulled Lyra through the market, pushing past busy crowds. She kept her head down, counting her steps, trying to remember Ryan's words. We'll find a way. Grant stopped at a vendor, shouting about cargo fees. Lyra looked around. Her eyes caught a flash of dark hair, a man in a worker's cap, watching her with steady eyes. It was Ryan. He raised his hand, giving her a silent sign. Stay strong. Suddenly, the air exploded with noise. An old fuel drum burst into flames by the vendor stand. Alarms blared. People screamed and ran in every direction. Grant cursed, tightening his grip on Lyra's arm. Stay close. But in the chaos, Mara rushed in, shoving Grant aside. Watch where you're going, she yelled, causing a scene. Cale bumped Grant from the other side, spilling sticky oil over his coat. Grant shouted in anger, letting go of Lyra's hand just for a second. That was all she needed. Ryan was there in an instant, grabbing her gently but firmly. Come on, Lyra. Now. Lyra's legs almost gave out, but Ryan pulled her through. The running crowd, weaving between crates and panicked people. Behind them, Grant realized Lyra was gone. He shouted, pushing people aside, his eyes wild with rage. Find her. Someone stop them. Cale and Mara blocked his way, pretending to argue, slowing him down. Generous waited by the tunnel entrance, waving to Ryan and Lyra. This way. Hurry. Ryan and Lyra slipped into the dark tunnel, the sounds of chaos fading behind them. The tunnels were cold and smelled of rust, but every step forward meant hope. Lyra stumbled, her breath coming fast. Ryan held her up, whispering, You're safe now. Just a little farther. But Lyra shook her head. No one is ever safe. He'll find me. He always finds me. Ryan knelt and looked her in the eyes. He won't. Not this time. You have. Friends now, you have me. For a long moment, Lyra stared at him, searching his face for any sign of a lie. She saw only kindness and a fierce promise. She nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks. They reached a heavy metal door at the end of Caustic's tier. At the end of the tunnel, Mara knocked 3 times, and a voice inside answered. The door swung open, revealing a hidden safe room filled with others, humans and aliens alike. Sharing quiet smiles, Lyra stepped inside, still shaking. But for the first time, she felt something she had not felt in years. Hope. Ryan closed the door behind them, and the darkness of the city was left outside. But he knew the danger was not over yet. Grant would not give up easily. And somewhere, the eyes of the slavers were still watching. The deadly chase. The hidden safe room was quiet but tense. Lyra sat wrapped in a warm blanket, her eyes wide as she looked at the faces around her, others who had escaped the slavers, but still lived with fear in their hearts. Ryan stood near the door, his gaze sharp and restless. He knew the danger was not over. Grant and his men would come for them. Suddenly, a loud beep echoed from Ryan's communicator. He pulled it out, face turning grim as he read the alert. Slaver. Patrols have spotted 2 fugitives near Dock 7. Lockdown imminent. Everyone, listen. Ryan's voice was low but urgent. They know we're here. We have little time before they surround this place. We need to move now. Mara nodded, already gathering supplies. The tunnels have many exits, but some are blocked. We must be fast and careful. Lyra's heart pounded as she stood, trembling but determined. She followed Ryan and the others through narrow, twisting tunnels beneath the city. Every step echoed in the cold stone walls. The silence between them was heavy with fear. Outside, the city was alive with flashing red lights and alarms. The slavers' ships hovered overhead, casting harsh beams of light down into the streets and alleys. Grant was furious, barking orders into his communicator. "They can't have escaped. Search every block." Grant growled. "Find that girl, or pay with your lives." Ryan led the group through a side tunnel, hoping to reach a secret exit near the old shipyard. But as they neared the surface, the sound of heavy boots echoed behind them, guards closing in fast. "Run!" Green shouted. Lyra's legs moved on their own, pushing past exhaustion. Behind them, the shouts grew louder. The chase had begun. They burst through a hidden door onto the dimly lit streets of the shipyard. Massive ships rested in dry docks, their shadows long and cold. The group scattered, slipping between crates and metal containers. Lyra ran beside Ryan, gasping for breath, her heart thundering like a drum. The cold air burned her lungs, but she forced herself to keep going. From the distance, she heard Grant's voice shouting, "There, the girl. Don't let her escape." A group of guards sprinted after them, blasters drawn. Ryan turned to Lyra, his eyes fierce. "This way." He grabbed her hand and pulled her toward a small maintenance tunnel hidden behind a stack of cargo boxes. They slipped inside, just as blaster fire exploded where they had been standing moments before. Sparks flew, metal screeched, and the sounds of battle echoed through the shipyard. Inside the tunnel, the air was thick and dark. Lyra's hands shook as she clung to Ryan's arm. "I can't keep running," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "They will catch me." Ryan stopped and looked at her. "You're stronger than you know," he said softly. "I won't let them take you back. We have to keep moving, but soon we'll find safety." Lyra nodded, swallowing her fear. Outside, the guards split up, searching every corner. Grant's rage grew. "Find them before nightfall," he roared. "If we lose her, the boss will kill me." As the sun dipped below the horizon, Ryan and Lyra emerged from the tunnel into an abandoned warehouse. It was dark and cold, but it was better than running in the open. Ryan pressed a hand to his communicator. "Mara, are you there? We need backup and a pickup." Static answered. Then Mara's voice. "Hold tight. We're on our way. Don't move." Lyra looked around the empty space, her mind racing. She had never known freedom like this, constant danger, but also hope. She swallowed hard, clutching Ryan's hand. Suddenly, footsteps echoed outside the warehouse door. Ryan pulled a small weapon from his belt, ready for a fight. The door slammed open. Grant and his men stormed inside, weapons raised. "Give her back," Grant shouted. "She belongs to me." Ryan stepped in front of Lyra, shielding her with his body. "No, she's free now." A fierce fight broke out. Blasters flashed in the dark as Ryan and his friends fought to protect Lyra. Shots grazed walls. Sparks flew, and the warehouse echoed with shouts and grunts. Lyra crouched behind a crate, heart pounding. She saw Grant lunging toward Ryan, fury in his eyes. With a sudden burst of courage, Lyra grabbed a heavy metal pipe and swung it at Grant's arm. He staggered back, surprised. Ryan seized the moment, knocking Grant's weapon away and pinning him to the ground. The fight ended as backup arrived. Mara and the others burst in, guns raised. Grant and his men were captured. Breathing heavily, Ryan turned to Lyra. "You're safe now." Lyra looked at him, tears of relief and gratitude flowing. "Thank you," she whispered. "I never thought someone would fight for me." Ryan smiled gently. "You don't have to be afraid anymore. We'll make sure of that." As the first stars appeared in the night sky, Lyra felt something new inside, a flicker of hope, burning brighter than any fear. The underground haven. City's night air was thick with tension as Ryan, Lyra, and the others moved quickly through a hidden passage beneath the shipyard. The sounds of sirens and shouts faded behind them, swallowed by cold stone walls. Ahead lay a place few knew about. Secret refuge where the hunted could find shelter. Ryan pushed open a heavy metal door, covered in rust and scratches. Inside, soft light spilled from flickering lamps, casting long shadows on worn walls. Room buzzed quietly with voices, humans and aliens alike. Their faces tired but filled with cautious hope. Mara greeted them with a small smile. "Welcome to the Haven. You're safe here." Lyra's eyes widened as she took in the space. There were beds made from old crates, blankets piled high, and a few small tables where people shared simple meals. Children played quietly in a corner. Their laughter fragile but real. Ryan led Lyra to a corner bed. "Rest here," he said gently. "You've earned it." But safety was only the beginning. Later, Ryan met with Mara and Generous, the silver-scaled alien who had helped at the docks. They sat around a table cluttered with maps and communication devices. "The slavers won't give up," Mara said, tapping a finger on the map. "Grant's boss has deep connections. They control guards, informants, even parts of the city government." Generous's sharp eyes flicked to Ryan. "That means staying here too long is dangerous. We need a plan to get Lyra and others to a safe world far from this city and the slavers." Ryan nodded, feeling the weight of the task. "What do we need?" Mara looked serious. "A ship. A fast one. One that can travel without drawing attention," Generous added. "And the supplies. Food, water, medical help. We also need more allies." Ryan thought of Tessa, the mechanic who had given him the cum chip. "I'll contact her. She might help with the ship." Mara smiled faintly. "Good. Time is short. The slavers will be hunting harder now." Meanwhile, Lyra sat near a small fire, watching other rescued aliens. Many had scars, like hers both, on their bodies and in their eyes. She met the gaze of a tall, green-skinned woman named Yara, who nodded warmly. "You're safe here, Yara," said softly. "We've all been through the darkness, but together we find light." Lyra felt a tear slip down her cheek. For the first time, she allowed herself to hope. But hope was fragile. Days passed, and Ryan worked tirelessly. He met with Tessa in a shadowed garage, where a sleek, unmarked ship waited, hidden under tarps. "Tessa," Ryan said, "I need this ship ready to fly. Quiet, fast, and able to avoid sensors." Tessa wiped grease from her hands. "Asking a lot, but I know why." "You want to save someone?" Ryan nodded. "Not just someone. Many slavery is a poison. We have to end it." Tessa smiled, touched by his words. "I'll do what I can." Back at the Haven, tension grew. News arrived that Grant's men had found a hidden safe house nearby. Several refugees were taken again, and whispers of a traitor spread among them. Lyra's fear returned like a storm. She stayed close to Ryan, watching shadows with wide eyes. One evening, as they sat by the fire, Lyra whispered, "I'm scared they will come for us again. I don't want to be caught." Ryan took her hand gently. "I won't let that happen. We'll leave this place soon. Together." But deep inside, Ryan worried. The slaver's reach was longer and darker than he had imagined. Then came the night, the alarms screamed. Blaster fire tore through the underground halls. Panic exploded as slaver forces stormed the Haven. People scrambled for cover. But the invaders were ruthless. Ryan grabbed Lyra, pulling her into a hidden escape tunnel. "Run!" he shouted over the chaos. Behind them, the sounds of battle raged. Cries of fear and anger echoing off stone walls. Emerging into the cold night air, Ryan and Lyra ran toward the shipyard. They had no choice. Now waiting meant death or capture. A small group of allies joined them. Tired but determined, at the edge of the city, the sleek ship waited. Engines humming softly, Ryan helped Lyra aboard and turned to the others. "Get on, we're leaving. Now." As the ship lifted off, leaving the city lights behind, Lyra pressed her face to the window. The place she had called home, the place where she had suffered shrunk beneath her. Freedom was near. But the price had been high. Ryan sat beside her, hands steady on the controls. "We're going to a new world, a place where no one owns you, where you can be free." Lyra nodded, hope rising like the stars outside the window. The journey had only just begun. The last stand. The stars outside the ship's window looked peaceful. But inside, the tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. Ryan's hands gripped the controls tightly as the ship flew through space, heading toward the safe world they hoped would be a new home. Lyra sat beside him, still quiet, her eyes fixed on the endless black beyond. The silence was broken by a sudden alarm. A red light flashed, and a loud voice echoed through the ship's speaker. "Warning. Incoming attack vessel approaching fast." Ryan's heart sank. "They found us," he whispered. "The slavers didn't give up." Lyra's face grew pale, but she stood up. "What will we do?" she asked, her voice small but steady. Ryan met her eyes. "We fight. This is our last chance." Outside, a dark ship appeared in the distance, cutting through space like a predator. It was bigger and heavily armed, its weapons glowing with deadly power. Ryan took a deep breath and pushed the ship's speed to the maximum. "Hold on," he said. The attack vessel fired first. Bright bolts of energy slammed into the hull, shaking the ship violently. Lights flickered, and the sound of metal groaning filled the cabin. Lyra grabbed Ryan's arm. "We can't keep running," she cried. Ryan nodded. "We don't have to." He reached for a small control panel and armed the ship's defensive weapons. The ship's cannons hummed, ready to fire. The two ships danced through the void, exchanging fire. Ryan's skill kept them just out of reach, but the enemy was relentless. Every second counted. Suddenly, the ship's hull cracked open and smoke filled the cabin. Lyra coughed, struggling to breathe. Ryan's face tightened with worry. "We need to land. Now." He spotted a nearby asteroid field and aimed the ship toward it, hoping to lose their pursuers in the maze of rocks. The ship shook as they entered the asteroid belt, dodging massive stones. Blaster fire ricocheted off nearby rocks, missing them by inches. Lyra gripped the edge of her seat. "Ryan, be careful." Ryan's eyes were sharp, focused on every movement. "We're almost through." But just as hope rose, an explosion rocked the ship. The power flickered and the controls jerked. Ryan fought to keep control. The ship crashed on a small, barren moon hidden deep within the asteroid field. Dust and debris filled the air. The engine sputtered, then went silent. Ryan and Lyra sat in stunned silence, the weight of the crash pressing down on them. "We're alive," Ryan said finally. "But we're not safe yet." Lyra nodded, wiping soot from her face. "What now?" Ryan stood and checked the damage. The ship was badly hurt, and the communications were down. "We need to fix the ship or find help," Ryan said. "But first, we have to make sure the slavers can't follow us here." Outside, the barren moon was cold and dark. Strange rocks jutted from the ground. The sky was covered with stars they had never seen before. Lyra and Ryan moved cautiously, hiding behind a rocky outcrop. In the distance, they saw the enemy ship landing. "They found us," Lyra whispered, fear returning. Ryan's jaw clenched. "We don't have time to run. We have to fight here. This is our last stand." As the slaver soldiers moved across the rocky landscape, Ryan and Lyra prepared their defenses. They gathered rocks, fashioned makeshift weapons, and planned an ambush. When the enemy soldiers arrived, they were met with fierce resistance. Ryan used his strength and quick thinking to outsmart them, while Lyra's courage surprised even herself. The battle was brutal. Blaster shots echoed through the moon's silent craters. Dust rose and fell as the fighters clashed. At one point, Lyra faced Grant himself. The man who had kept her captive looked down on her with cruel eyes. "You can never be free," Grant sneered. "You belong to us." Lyra stood tall. "I belong to no one." With a sudden burst of strength, she pushed Grant away and joined Ryan in fighting the others. The fight ended with the slavers retreating, their ship badly damaged. Ryan and Lyra watched as the enemy ship limped away into the stars, exhausted but victorious. They returned to the crashed ship. Ryan smiled weakly. "We did it. We're free." Lyra looked up at the sky, tears in her eyes. "I never thought freedom would feel like this. Scary, but real." Ryan took her hand. "This is only the beginning. A new life waits for us." Together, as the two looked out at the alien horizon, hope burned bright in their hearts. Asterisk freedoms prized the sky. Above, the barren moon was filled with stars, cold and distant. Ryan and Lyra sat together on a rocky ledge, watching the silent expanse. Their ship was broken beyond repair, but for the first time in a long time, they were free. Lyra's eyes were bright, but her smile was fragile. "I don't know what comes next," she said softly. "I'm free, yes, but where do I belong?" Ryan looked at her, feeling the weight of those words. Freedom doesn't mean we have all the answers. It means we get to find them. Together. The days that followed were quiet, but filled with small acts of courage. Ryan and Lyra explored the moon's strange landscape, learning its secrets. They found shelter in caves, drank from hidden streams, and built a small fire to keep the cold at bay. But freedom came with a heavy cost. They were alone, far from any help or hope of rescue. The silence often pressed down on them like a shadow. One evening, as they sat by the fire, Lyra spoke quietly. "I miss my home. The place I was taken from." Even with all the pain, it was familiar. Ryan nodded. "I know, starting over is hard. But this is your chance to build a new home. One where no one can own you." Lyra reached for his hand. "Thank you for not giving up on me." Ryan smiled. "I promised I wouldn't, and I never will." But peace was broken when a distant sound echoed through the valley, a low rumble growing louder. Ryan stood, scanning the horizon. "Shuttles," he said grimly. "They found us again." Lyra's heart raced. The slavers were relentless. Ryan and Lyra hurried back to their shelter. They had little time. Together, they prepared a defense with the few tools and weapons they had as the slaver. Shuttles landed nearby, armed soldiers poured out. Their faces were hard and cruel, but Ryan and Lyra were ready. The battle was fierce. Stones flew, blasters fired, and the air crackled with tension. Ryan fought with determination, but it was Lyra who surprised him most. Her bravery and strength shone through every move. At one point, Lyra faced Grant, once again the man who had tried to break her spirit. "This ends now," she said, eyes blazing. Grant lunged, but Lyra dodged and struck him down. The soldiers faltered, and soon the slavers were forced to retreat, beaten and broken. With the enemy gone, Ryan and Lyra stood together, breathing heavily but victorious. This time, Ryan said, "It's really over." Lyra smiled, tears shining in her eyes. "I'm not a slave anymore. I'm free." As dawn broke over the moon's horizon, Ryan and Lyra looked toward the stars, knowing their journey was far from over, but now they had something stronger than fear: hope. Together, they would find a new home, a place where no one could ever hurt them again.